I can't see how I would be able to go forward and survive, even thrive, if I didn't go back. So that's why we're going out here. I just need to understand where the Risbys come from. There's a lot of shame by the time you get to me. And I have never really understood it, except to know that I definitely have that tick. I carry it. And so my work is about undoing that stuff. And also trying to find, because I love my grandparents so much, because I miss them so much, this is, I feel like it's a debt that I'm repaying to my grandparents for a lot of things. And it's coming to value something that they felt very, very important, was very, very important. So I'm trying to give them back a bit of glory, give the family back a bit of glory. Because by the time you get to me, we are scattered, we don't get together unless it's a funeral. And all of the really strong community ties in my childhood, I thought it was deeply, incestuous. No, everybody knew your business. But I think we lost something when we stopped being like that. And that ended when Mama and Daddy died. And then literally when Mama and Daddy died, the family it was an opportunity for everybody to make a break for themselves. And it is exactly how I ended up in Toronto. My grandfather was dying of cancer, and my mom and I took care of him to the very end. And I think it was like a day before he died. It was just a really lousy palliative care situation. We were in the hospital. All of the siblings, all of his children came back except for a couple, and then very few of my generation were around. But about 2 days before, in the hospital, I just decided, somewhere in there, I had decided that this was my break anyhow. And when everybody came back in the room, I just said, I'm moving to Toronto. I had never been to Toronto. I don't know anybody. I didn't necessarily know how I was going to get there. I just knew I had to get the hell out. And if I didn't, I was going to be stuck, and I would be in all the stuff that the family was. So it saved me. And then the distance has helped me to look back and understand things. But we lost family connection when Mom and Daddy, we did brawl with each other. We brawled with the neighbors. We brawled down the street. You'd go to the club, we'd have a fight. It was just, that's all we ever did. And when Mama and Daddy were alive, they could still get everybody, even if we hated each other, Mama and Daddy could get us all back in the house for Christmas and Easter and their birthdays, sometimes my birthday, the kids' birthdays, but they managed to keep us together. And even though we were all deeply rebellious in our own ways, we all looked to Mama and Daddy for leadership in some way or another. They were, two generations. They're the parents to two generations of children. Mom and Daddy had 11. I was raised with 5 others. It depends on the time of their grandchildren. So they raised something like 16, 17 kids. They were raising kids until they died. But that again just speaks to how central they were in my world, our world, and they just had very different values and very different understandings about what we needed to be. And I think a lot of it was informed by being in the middle of the country, potentially being surrounded by people that don't want you there, and there's a self-sufficiency that they instilled in us that definitely comes from the towns that they created in Canada and Alberta. And, Nicodemus is this last standing bastion of all of that questing for, space and freedom and all of those things, and the ability to rule your own life. All of those things come from places like this. It makes me want to adopt those values again, because I just see how much of a long-standing, deep root legacy it is. And that loss of family, community connection is a lot of the reason why we fall apart. We're not completely at the end, but you know what I mean. It's like we fell apart. And I guess I'm trying to make peace with the childhood that I had, and I need to understand who these people were. Because my understanding was I was in their world, in their life, when they were really, really, really tired, spiritually tired, physically tired. I certainly didn't have them at the best of their abilities. So I would like to better understand who they were, maybe to get some peace for myself, because it plays out all the time. I moved to Toronto to forget them, and that's the only thing that I've been able to talk about since I've been here. I've been in Toronto 25 years. So I'm looking for some peace, and I'm looking to settle this debt so that I can move forward. I don't know what that looks like, but yeah, I know that if I don't do this, I won't be able to go forward. Yeah.
idea how many towns like this were established?
In Kansas, there were nearly a dozen, close to a dozen. And the other one that's probably most well known is Dunlap, down near Council Grove, just south and east of Council Grove, a few miles. There were African American towns that were here in the state of Kansas. They all are gone. In Oklahoma, there was about 26 all African American towns. Colorado had one that was called Deerfield. And then there was one all the way out in California that was called Allensworth that was started by Buffalo Soldiers. You guys have any questions or comments? Okay. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, I think we should go ahead and do the tour around the town and take you guys over to the museum. All ready to go? Okay, this is, remember I said education as well as religion was important to the people? They started schools immediately. Why? Because they had been denied education while they were slaves, so it was important for them to teach kids and adults how to read and write. And so they started schools immediately. Of course, the first school was in a dugout, and then in later years they built a sod house, and then they built on this property here the first school. This school is the first school that was established in Graham County. It was established in 1878, and this particular building is the second building on this particular site where the school was. This building was built right after the first one burned down, accidentally burned down. So this one was built back in the 1920s. It closed in 1962. My parents and on both my mom and dad's side, their parents actually went to school here, and so did my older siblings. They actually went to school here. And they had a bell that used to be on top, and that bell's gone, but you could hear it for miles. And so the kids that lived in and around the area would hear the bell, and they knew what time to come to school. But education was very important to the people of Nicodemus. The man right here in the corner, Edward P. McCabe, he was the Nicodemus Town Company secretary in 1878. He went on to become the first clerk in Graham County. Then he went over to Guthrie, Oklahoma, which is right down the road, so to speak, and helped people to get settled there. And then he served as an auditor in Oklahoma for 2 terms. Then he left there and moved to Canada and helped people to get settled in Canada. Canada is a good breaking point for me to introduce my cousin Gina.
Hiya.
I'm sorry.
Deanna.
Deanna. I said Gina.
We just met today, so
Yeah.
you know, it's allowed to happen.
And she's from Canada.
I'm from Canada.
She's related to me on my mother's side, my grandmother's mother, my grandmother, I should say, and her siblings.
Your grandmother is the oldest daughter of my great-great-grandfather.
Okay.
And my great-great-grandfather, with his wife and the kids, came to Canada in 1910. The only person that stayed behind is her grandmother. And it's just a fluke. I actually found Angela about a month and a half ago. Somebody had uploaded her grandmother's picture on Ancestry.com. So if you ever think that whether or not that works, it actually works. And then I contacted Angela and I just said, I'm coming down.
When you get all of this history, you say, what am I going to do with it? For example, with regards to the family genealogies and the photographs, we happen to have photographs of a lot of people. So I made up my mind to try to untangle the genealogies. And the genealogies are very interesting because it's like if everybody in this room started to marry one another, then all of your kids would be related to one another, right? And then that generation couldn't get married. Well, that's what happened in Nicodemus. Over a course of a number of years, all of the families started marrying each other. And then when it got down to my generation, nobody could marry anybody because everybody's related to one another. And so I said, I want to untangle this genealogical web. This one's interesting because this is my great-great-great-grandfather. That's 3 greats. How many of you know your great-grandparents? How many of, okay, great. How many of you know your great-great-grandparents? With your great-great, or great?
Just great.
Do you have photographs of them? Do you know who they are?
I can remember both of my great grandmas, but not grandfathers, and zero photos.
Yeah, zero photos. That's amazing. You guys know your grandparents? Yeah. So this is my great, great, great. So let me show you how I am connected to him. He and Leanna, his wife, these are my great, great, great grandparents. These are their children, Harriet, Margaret, Maria, Clark, and Mary. And their husbands are in the brown here. Well, Margaret married, that was their second daughter. Margaret married a man by the name of Emmanuel Napier. And Emmanuel Napier and Margaret had all of these children here. Well, they had a son named William Henry. And William Henry had a daughter named Vercella Bates. And Vercella is my grandmother. So that's my mother, that's my dad's mother. So you can see I know the genealogy all the way back up to here. That's very unusual for African Americans because it's hard just to get to slavery. It's hard just right now to even get, for the most of you, to even get to your great or your great grandparents. But to get to your great, 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 which takes me all the way back into slavery and have pictures about of them and to have stories about them is really a phenomenal thing.
Don't hurry for your lunches. We got lots of time. So.
Hi, Jane, how are you?
How are you?
Good.
Fine.
You want to just introduce yourself to folks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jenny. This is your Hi,
Joe.
I'm from Finland.
How'd you find this place?
I can't even remember how I originally found it, but then I started to read about it and I got so intrigued and I wanted to come.
So you came all the way from Finland?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I stopped in Connecticut and
That's cool. Awesome. So what are you going to write about? Just the town, the history?
the town, the history, and a little bit about the concept of freedom, and a little bit also about the elections.
Come to Canada.
Yeah, this is my cousin from Canada.
Hey, nice to meet
Hi.
you. Sorry.
I just got here today too.
I'm Jenny.
Nice to meet you.
You're the lost cousin.
I'm the lost cousin.
Yeah,
I'm
we
the
found
lost
each other.
cousin.
Didn't even know we were looking for each
Didn't
other.
even know. Didn't even know.
So it was your parents who went to Canada, or their grandparents?
No, it's my
or
great grandparents.
Okay,
Which
so
is, and they are
long way down.
her grandmother's
My
parents.
great grandparents.
Great grandparents? They are your great
great aunts and uncles.
They are your great aunt and uncles. Okay.
Elizabeth was the one that stayed.
Yeah.
And now how is she related to the ones that
She's the oldest daughter of the ones that came to Canada.
Okay, so she's the then they're my great
Yeah, great grandmother.
Yeah.
great
Is it
yes.
great?
Yes, great.
I wonder you don't have a map in your
Great,
pocket
great.
that you can just
She
pull out.
she does the maps. I go on. I have a computer. I
You
go
want
on.
anything?
Sorry?
You want anything?
I'm fine. I just ate before I left.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just really important to know the history, right? And again,
Yeah.
because they're not talking, you don't have any idea why they are what they are, how they live their lives, what they think their limitations are, what they think they can expect out of
Yeah.
life, right? So that's some of it, is
That's
just
so
going to the
interesting.
land and then looking around, seeing what's going on, learn the history, then figure out how, once you know the family tree, then you can really map everything that's kind of gone on, right? Because you know where they were, you know when they were there,
Yeah.
and then you can literally branch out and go to newspapers and all that kind of stuff to
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
a better sense, right? So it's been a huge eye opener for
Yeah.
me. But I've been doing it for 10, 15 years.
Okay. Wow, that's a long time.
It's been a while. It's been a while. It's been a while. But Andrew, you've been doing it longer than me.
My whole life.
There you go. All right.
Well, really, I started officially in about 1980, probably about 1985.
Why?
I had moved from Washington, D.C. to Denver,
Yeah.
and my cousin Verl had been working with the community in an organization called the African American Institute for Historic Preservation.
Yeah.
And they had just designated Nicodemus, well, they didn't just, but in 1976, they had designated Nicodemus as a National Historic Landmark District. And so I moved to Denver, and he had been telling me, you know, you're next in line, Angela, because I was the one that was always here, running around asking questions, wanting to be here. Couldn't figure out why my parents moved to California. And then In 1988, I put together the Nicodemus Historical Society, and because I thought, we need to get a handle on who's producing what out there on us, because there's a lot of stuff in the newspapers, on television, and it was like, we need to have a historical society. So I organized a historical society, and then the rest is history. But I've always been interested in the history of Nicodemus, and as a little kid, and we'd come down during the summer, I just felt bad that our parents moved, and my cousins lived in the country, and I loved coming down here. Everybody had pigs, cows, horses, chickens, and this was a country versus growing up in an urban area, And so I wrote my first book in 1968. My brother and I came and spent the whole summer here. And I wanted to preserve that memory every day. And I was one of those people that kept diaries. And I was just always interested in the stories and the families. I loved everybody. I loved running from one house to the next, knowing that, this is Aunt so-and-so or cousin so-and-so. And, that was wonderful. And I wanted to preserve that. Yeah. And so selfishly, in 1990, it's when I took the initiative to see if we could get it designated as a national park. One day, Kenny came to this presentation in this program that Barry and I were at. Barry's my ex-husband. I was so moved by him. He was just really emotional about my brother dying because he did not know he had died. And so he was really bent out of shape. We were standing in the street, and Barry went to get his truck, which was parked on the other side of the block. So as we were standing there, Kenny and I were standing there, he said, "You just have to excuse me," because he was just an emotional wreck. Yeah. And he says, "It's not just Clint." He said, "My wife committed suicide about 3 months ago." I was like, "What?" And that's why he was just emotional. Anyway, that's how I met Kenny. So years later, a couple of years ago, I was doing a presentation in Concordia, Kansas, and he lives right outside of Concordia. And he said, "You told me that Jackie, my sister-in-law, was going to sell Clint's saddle." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Has she sold it yet?" I said, "No, they haven't sold it yet." He said, "Well, I collect saddles and I restore saddles." He said, "See if she's willing to sell it." And I said, "Okay." So I called Jackie. She said, "Oh, yeah." And so I called him back. I said, "She wants $425, but she's willing to negotiate that." And so he said, "Okay, tell her I want it. And when you come to Concordia, bring it with you." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Okay." So I went by, got the saddle, did my presentation. He was there at the presentation, so it was all over. Went out to the trunk of my car and said, "Here it is, and here's the bridle and all." And he was like, "Wow." And he picked it up and he said, "Clint was a big man." I said, "Yeah, he was bigger like you." And so he took the saddle out of the trunk. And he said, "Now, I told you I was going to do something special with it." I'm saying, "Yeah." I'm thinking he's going to restore it and put it on display in his place with the rest of his saddles. Mm-hmm. He took it out and he said, "I told you I was going to do something special with it." I'm like, "What are you going to do with it, Kenny? You going to, you fix it all up and put it on display?" And he says, "No, I'm going to do something better than that." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he said, "I'm giving it to you." I just hit it like right. I said, "You're going to give me Clint's saddle?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going to give you Clint's saddle." I'm like, "Oh my God, you really are?" He says, "Yes." He says, "I know how much you love your brother, and I know what he meant to you, and so I don't think anybody needs to have his saddle but you." So here it is. My brother gave me his hat, and I was glad that he gave me his hat. Then Tommy gave me his horse, and then his good friend Kenny gave me his saddle. And here it is. And so my brother Clint and I were the two country bumpkins. We always wanted to be in Nicodemus. We always wanted to be here. And so he moved here about a year after he graduated from high school. He got married and had 5 kids, and he rode and he had his horses and stuff, but he didn't get really involved with with writing extensively and being involved until he got with the Buffalo Soldiers. And then I told Barry, I said, you know what? My brother was a trucker. I said, he's a trucker. He's got his own truck business and all. I said, but I'm going to tell you, you get Clint involved and you've got the best partner. And they were like two little bad boys. And Barry was with him when he died in Wyoming. But yeah, I got Clint's saddle and his hat, and I had his horse, and I couldn't have asked for it. You know, you want things in life, but to be able to have his hat and his saddle and his horse, and he's here right now, and I miss him. But there he is on the wall, and that was the last picture that was taken at Fort Davis, Texas, where the Buffalo Soldiers were stationed every year.
Yeah.
And they'd go down and perform, and I would go with them, and I would describe what the soldiers were doing when they were doing the maneuvers and all, and then I would introduce them and all that. And then when I got divorced from Barry, I just stopped all of that. I just didn't do. He and I still perform together. We still do a lot of work together, but I don't do anything with the Buffalo Soldiers like I used to. And but that was the Christmas card for the year that Clint died. So he never saw that. But that was the Christmas card for Fort Davis. And when I look at him on there, I could see the stress, on him. He's one of these people that he loved his kids so much, I think it killed him, so to speak. But that was his passion. His family was his passion. Being a cowboy, being a Buffalo Soldier was his passion. And I miss him. But he's where he's supposed to be, and he was a phenomenal man when he was alive, and I just thought we would always grow old together here in Nicodemus, and it just never happened. But anyway, so much for that. We went from cowboy hats
to both of us crying in the living room.
I mean, but this is.
I don't even know the man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You just found out a little bit about him, and he had a wonderful passion, a big heart. He was like, he didn't meet any strangers, and he loved everybody. He was a good guy. He was a good guy. And so he's here. He's present. So my brother's here with me always. And so anyway, there he is. I know. This was your history. It is so wonderful to have you here. It's heavy, isn't it? That's not the Henry.
That's the Henry you're talking about.
This is Henry, the first baby born.
Okay.
This is Henry, the first baby born.
Corporal, 1692. So he's in World War II, died in his marker's sinking, eh?
Yeah. I would be careful.
Oh, don't mess me with that.
I'm sorry. Because, this is rattlesnake country, and it's a warm day, so they're subject to be out.
Okay.
Why, sir?
What am I looking for a rattlesnake, anyhow?
You'll hear him before you...
Awesome. Okay.
Well, he just looks like a snake. He just looks like a snake. It's winter time, and usually, not winter, but they usually go in this time of the year, but...
Wharton? Really? Do you know anything about the Whartons?
They were here. Who's Wharton that you know?
That's Sam Henry's wife's maiden. Margaret. Elizabeth's mother is a Wharton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know what her maiden name was.
She's a Wharton. Oh, wow. Yeah, she's a Wharton.
That is why down in Abilene, there's a family. See, there's a hole right there, and I'm not sure if that's a snake hole or not. Well,
yeah.
Ruby, Louise, Helen, and Mary.
Wow.
They didn't last very long. They were just a few days old.
Babies. I'll have to go back and look at the census.
And when did they leave to go up there?
1910. 1910.
1910.
And I know what Mary's parents are. I can't remember what they are right now, but I can tell you.
So they were Hortons.
Wharton.
Hortons.
Yeah.
Whartons.
Margaret's family line.
And that's...
Sam's wife, Elizabeth's mother.
Okay, so her parents were Sam and...
Sam Henry Risby and Margaret Wharton Risby.
Sam and Margaret.
Yep.
Okay, I'll have to try to remember that.
I'll tell you again.
Yeah.
Ask me again and I'll tell you. Yeah, and I found Margaret's parents.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they up there?
No. I found census
Genealogically.
records. I found genealogically. I found them. Is this? No, that's not her.
No, they're out.
Over this way.
Yeah. See, there's Aunt Teresa. There's the whole day. She should be right here.
Which one? This way or the next one?
And the next one. That's Laureate. Yeah, see, she was a laureate. She should be buried right here.
Elizabeth?
And Charles. They should be right along here. Here they are. Well, no, that's Garth's aunt. Eugene Williams. That's Uncle Gene. Here they are right here. Charles, 1880, 1940. And then this should
Elizabeth.
be her. 1890,
Elizabeth Williams Garland.
Mhm.
1891, 1954. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
We need to give her a
new
grave
gravestone.
marker.
A new grave marker.
A new one. That one. Oh my God. 1881. So she was a year younger than Charles.
Yeah. No, she's 1891.
Is that 1891?
91. To 19. Yeah, it's looking like 1954. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think she died in about 54. It was. I was just a baby when I was born in 52.
Wow.
That's
That's a trip right there.
That's a night. That's a 9.
So that's my great
Aunt.
aunt. Yep.
Elizabeth Williams Garland. See, she married a Garland before she died.
Yeah.
And Charlie.
Yeah.
You know, he said this gravestone was a lawnmower.
Hmm.
I was just saying, because this moved off of here.
And this one's moved off of here.
He's hit it with the lawnmower, so mine
Right.
shouldn't know.
Right.
And this is my aunt.
Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
See now the connection, right? Canadian peoples.
Mm-hmm.
That's just too cool for school. Yeah, I feel really. You were asking about what they're thinking. I know my grandfather's hella proud right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's very happy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, generations later. You know, and who knows, we'll be out here one day or wherever, and we'll be looking and saying, you know, good job. You guys just keep up the good work, because I see this as a mecca. People will come. There will be, I've always said that tourism will be the economic base for Nicodemus, and I really believe that, because the history has already happened. Not that we're not still making history, but the important history in terms of what people did with their freedom is exemplary in that town that's still down there. And the descendants that may not all be right there, obviously, but all over the United States, all over the world. So that's what Nicodemus is. It lives in us, it breathes in us, and it's not just a place. It's wherever we are. We take it with us.
Thank you, Miss Bates.
You're welcome. Ms. Bowen.
Oh, you.
along on the road to the soul, true abode. There's an eye watching you. Every step that you take, this great eye is away. There's an eye watching you, watching you, watching you. Every day, mind of course you pursue. Watching you, watching you. There's an all-seeing eye watching you. As you make life's great fight, keep the path way upright. There's an eye watching you. God will warn not to go in the path of the foe. There's an eye watching you, watching you, watching you. Every day, mind the course you pursue. Watching you, watching you. There's an all-seeing eye watching you. Keep your eyes on the goal, that sweet home of the soul. There's an eye watching you. Never turn from the way to the kingdom of day. There's an eye watching you, watching you, watching you. Every day, mind the course you pursue.